At the time of making this video, Showgirls has celebrated its 30th anniversary. Can you believe it? So I must say, happy birthday to Showgirls, one of my top 10 all-time favourite films. This film has been on the most extraordinary roller coaster ride. It was savaged when it came out, and it was a commercial failure, but it has since re-emerged as one of the great camp classics. In this video, we'll explore the incredibly hostile reaction to Showgirls and its long road to redemption. Let's take a trip back to 1995. Here you can see Elizabeth Berkley on David Letterman promoting Showgirls. And this is like a before the storm moment because Berkley is hopeful. She has every reason to think that this film will be a hit and it could turn her into a movie star, kind of like Basic Instinct did for Sharon Stone. And here you can see Elizabeth Berkley on the Conan O'Brien show in 1998, and she's a brunette now and she has a very different haircut. This is telling. After the failure of Showgirls, casting directors were not returning her calls. Elizabeth Berkley had to reinvent herself in Hollywood if she was going to have any chance of relaunching her career. The New York Times review of Showgirls by Janet Maslin was scathing. There's a bit of a pattern on this channel, with films I've championed getting terrible reviews from Janet Maslin. She also hated Yentl, a film I absolutely love. Anyhow, in this review, Maslin just unloads on Elizabeth Berkley's performance and Paul Verhoeven's directing. Usually I'd read you the most scathing part of the review, but every line of the review is scathing, so I've just chosen this bit pretty much at random. The strain of making America's dirtiest big studio movie has led Mr. Verhoeven and Mr. Esterhaz to create an instant camp classic. Elizabeth Berkley will not be the next Sharon Stone. With the open-mouthed, vacant-eyed look of an inflatable party doll, Ms. Berkley should have been well suited to a film that treats its heroine like a shiny new toy. Not all the reviews were terrible. I mean, most were, but even the good reviews positioned Showgirls as a ridiculous film that you watch in a spirit of bad taste. Towards the end of 1995, the Los Angeles Times concluded that Showgirls was probably a bad career move for Elizabeth Berkley. I'll read you some extracts. Okay, here goes. The critical and commercial debacle that is Showgirls seems to be crashing down on star Elizabeth Berkley's dancing lap. The article goes on to say this. She was greeted by some of the most hostile reviews in recent memory, was dropped by her agent, and so far hasn't lined up her next acting role. For Berkley's efforts, the role of Naomi Malone, a headline part in a $40 million film, paid her only $100,000. Incidentally, Paul Verhoeven was paid $2 million to direct the film, which was less than he would normally get paid, and, you know, he said that they just didn't have any more money in the pot to pay Elizabeth Berkley more. So I think that's kind of cute, isn't it? There are plenty of millions swishing around to pay me my big salary, but not you, sorry. The redemption of Showgirls would begin as early as late 1995 when the VHS was released. Remember browsing around Blockbuster Video wondering what to rent? Well, a lot of people decided, let's give that ridiculous film Showgirls a go. It became one of MGM's most valuable home entertainment properties, raking in over $100 million in video sales and rentals. Put it this way, on video, Showgirls took more money than many of the biggest films of 1995 took at the box office. By March of 1996, the New York Times was reporting on the strange afterlife of Showgirls. Less than a year before, it had given the film a terrible review. Thank you, Janet Maslin. The article described the film as an unloved turkey with unintentionally hilarious dialogue. But it was already doing the rounds as a midnight movie, like the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and MGM were happy to play along and re-release released Showgirls to trade on its emerging status as a work of high camp art. Showgirls would play at cinemas and in clubs, often gay clubs, and audiences would get drunk and laugh along to the most outrageous moments. MGM even hired drag performers to appear at the first midnight shows. So in those MGM-sponsored gigs, a drag queen named Winona was going around handing out scripts that cued viewers to shout along to the most outrageous lines. There were also drag queens on hand to recreate some of the most, well, let's just say striking choreography from Showgirls. And the article goes on to speculate about the longevity of Showgirls' revival. You know, would this just be a flash in the pan? Anyhow, they interview one of the event organisers who was showing reruns of Showgirls, and he had this to say. For the downtown Manhattan crowd to sit through a movie for 2 hours and 10 minutes and enjoy and participate in it is an indication that it does have staying power. These queens don't tolerate mediocrity. Well, truer words were never spoken.
I think it was the day before it was released.
Yes.
And then the reviews came out and I went, yeah, that's the best way I can describe what I went.
You can't be good in a bad movie.
Well, and the thing is, you know what? Look, you have to take risks.
Right.
I mean,
You did the smart thing, though.
One of the things is, you take risks, and with that comes sometimes a beating.
When you were getting blamed for that movie, I didn't blame you for that movie. You were in the movie. Big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I blame the director, the guy who wrote the script.
It's nobody's fault. They did the best they could, I'm sure.
No, they didn't.
Showgirls wasn't the only stripper movie, exotic dancer movie, that caused controversy at this time. In 1996, Demi Moore starred in Striptease. She was paid $12.5 million for her performance, which made her the highest paid actress in Hollywood. In the build-up to Striptease being released, there was an awful lot of press coverage about Demi Moore's massive payday. Now, she argued, fairly I guess, that this payday just brought her in line with what some of the leading men in Hollywood were getting paid. But when the film came out, it received terrible reviews, and so Demi Moore had the dubious distinction of being the best paid actress in Hollywood with the worst reviews. She actually won the Razzie for Worst Actress in 1997. I'm sure Demi Moore was drying her tears with $100 bills. As we've already established, Elizabeth Berkley was paid a measly $100,000 for her performance in Showgirls, so that's a fraction of the $12.5 million Demi Moore received. To be fair, Demi Moore was already established as an A-list star in Hollywood. Elizabeth Berkley was not. Nonetheless, that is quite a pay discrepancy. I think Elizabeth Berkley gave us so much in Showgirls, she deserved Demi Moore's paycheck. Striptease has gone down in history as one of the worst films of the 90s. It may well be one of the worst films Hollywood ever made. It only comes to life in a handful of scenes where Demi Moore is stripping to Annie Lennox songs. Oh, and also the poster is pretty iconic. If you were around in the 90s, you will remember that poster in Blockbuster video stores. It is such a striking image, so you've got to give Demi Moore credit for that. As Demi Moore was waiting for her comeback, she had her vast paychecks to keep her company. Sadly, Elizabeth Berkley hasn't really been given the chance to make a big comeback following the failure, or the quote-unquote failure, of Showgirls.
20 years ago, I had this huge dream to play this girl named Nomi Malone. And a script landed in my lap. Well, not really. I sought it out. I fought for it. I did everything Nomi would do. Every agent in Hollywood told me there's no way you're going to get it. They're going to give it to so-and-so, and so-and-so, and so-and-so, so just give up on that dream, honey. Well, what would Nomi do? She figured it out. So I called the producer and I said, "Hi, I'm Nomi Malone. You need to meet with me." And they laughed. And the casting director brought me in, and I did my thing. And 5 callbacks later, I got it. And I had the the most extraordinary experience making the film. It was the greatest freedom. You know, when a dream is happening, it's unlike anything you can ever imagine, which is why when the movie came out, it was more painful than anything you can imagine.
Elizabeth Berkley's career as an actress didn't end after Showgirls. She appeared in First Wives Club in 1996, and she was in TV shows like The L Word. She's done a lot of theatre, she's done reality TV, but the simple fact is her career took a major hit. The failure of Showgirls was pinned on her. Paul Verhoeven went on to direct more big movies, but this young neophyte appearing in her first ever film, she was made to take the fall, and I just don't think that's fair. But then again, if there's one thing I've learned from researching the history of the movies, it's that Hollywood is not fair. Ultimately, Elizabeth Berkley came unstuck in Hollywood, just as Nomi Malone came unstuck in Las Vegas. But in a parallel universe in which Elizabeth Berkley was given her dues, she would have become a great movie star, and I think she had more than enough talent to pull that off.
But I think but you're right, because the very first time, I haven't seen the movie in a long time, but when you see me, Crystal, everything is artificial. We had talked about that. Like, her nails are fake, her eyelashes are fake, everything is fake about her. And I think acknowledging that so boldly, it kind of put me in a different place. Like, I was in on the artificiality of it, if that's...
She survived.
I survived.
I survived, the clear implication being some people did not. Gina Gershon did go on to play some good roles, my favourite being Donatella in House of Versace. She was very much the star of that Lifetime movie. And if you like camp films, you're watching Hollywood History, so I'm guessing the answer is yes. What can I say? Watch House of Versace. It is so much fun. It is so chaotic. It doesn't really go for psychological nuance, let's say. It presents Donatella Versace purely as a camp icon, and who else could play her better than Gina Gershon, who played Crystal in Showgirls.
It's Versace, ladies. Why don't you go by the store? Your husbands will be happy.
It is something of a tragedy that Elizabeth Berkley wasn't invited to make a cameo in House of Versace and say this.
Thanks. I bought it at Versace.
You had one job, Lifetime. You could have made something truly iconic happen. Anyhow, House of Versace got appalling reviews, but I absolutely loved it. So Elizabeth Berkley didn't get the chance to show up in House of Versace and say Versace, but to mark the 30th anniversary of Showgirls, Donatella Versace herself took to Instagram and delivered Elizabeth Berkley's legendary line.
Nice dress.
Thanks. It's a Versace.
It's Versace.
What?
Versace. It's pronounced Versace.
As far as I can tell, that is the first time Donatella Versace has ever acknowledged Showgirls. But in this Vogue interview, she did teach us all how to pronounce, let me get it right, Versace correctly.
Which Italian word do you wish English speakers would stop saying incorrectly?
Versace. Is Versace.
Mainstream pop culture may have finally caught up and recognised the unique brilliance of Showgirls, but as is so often the case, drag queens could see it first.
Sometimes I come out of the volcano and I'm Crystal, sometimes I come out and I'm Nomi. It just depends.
There's always someone younger and hungrier coming down the stairs after you.
After the failure of Showgirls, Paul Verhoeven was given the opportunity to make another big Hollywood film in 1997, Starship Troopers, a film you may well remember. It was one of the top-grossing films of 1997. Commercially, it did much better than Showgirls. In terms of storyline, it couldn't be more different. Starship Troopers is a sci-fi film chronicling the interstellar battle between arachnids, these bug-like alien space creatures from the planet Klendathu, and humans. So with a slightly hokey-sounding sci-fi plot, you might be thinking, well, surely Paul Verhoeven wouldn't be causing any controversy with this film. Well, think again. He was accused of promoting fascism. Okay, have you seen Starship Troopers? Seriously, you don't have to be like a particularly sophisticated film critic to come away from a Starship Troopers viewing and conclude that it is a satire of a militaristic society. Paul Verhoeven is well into his 80s now, but he is still raising hell as a filmmaker. His latest film, Benedetta, is fantastic, and it's a really good companion piece to Showgirls. It has the same kind of chaotic energy and decadence of Showgirls, even though it's set in 17th century France in a nunnery. Okay, because it deals with a lesbian scandal that takes place at the nunnery, and this lesbian nun also claims she has stigmata and has these fantasies where she's having an affair with Jesus. It is an incredibly blasphemous and outrageous movie, but what can I say? It is high octane fun, just like Showgirls. Quick detour, but bear with me, there's no way around this. We have to talk about Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift's latest album, I think it might be her 800th album, I'm not sure, just so happened to overlap with the 30th anniversary of Showgirls. Swift's album, The Life of a Showgirl, has been met with mixed reviews from the critics, and the Academy, as in, yeah, that Academy, the Academy that gives out Oscars, have just tweeted this. The caption reads, "You don't know the life of a showgirl, babe," so that's taking the Taylor Swift lyric, but then it adds this, "But Nomi sure did," and that takes us back to the Paul Verhoeven film from 1995, and then we see a reel of clips from the film. At the time of making this video, the tweet has had 6.1 million views, and as I'm scrolling through the comments, I'm seeing a lot of people saying justice for Elizabeth Berkley. I'm also seeing people attacking the Academy, saying you people trashed this film when it came out, or you wouldn't acknowledge its existence more accurately, and pretty much ruined Elizabeth Berkley's career as a leading lady in Hollywood. But now you're celebrating Showgirls. It's quite fascinating to see, even 30 years after its release, this film is still stoking controversy.
Well, everything is a bit over the top, even dialogue and acting and everything to a certain degree. But I felt that the story itself is extremely negative, of course. I mean, it's really saying sexuality or sex in general is money. And basically is that's not only, you could say, perhaps an attack on Vegas, but it's perhaps was seen as an attack on the United States in general. The bottom line is money.
We seem to be living in something of a Showgirl era. As well as Taylor Swift's Showgirl album, we have The Last Showgirl, a 2024 movie starring Pamela Anderson. This film was directed, incidentally, by Gia Coppola. She is the granddaughter of Francis Ford Coppola and the niece of Sofia Coppola, so yes, nepotism goes a long way in Hollywood. Anyhow, the film is really good, so credit where it's due. The Last Showgirl is a melancholy account of the life of an aging showgirl. The Paul Verhoeven film we know and love leans into pure camp excess, but there is a sad reality implied in that film because the characters are scared of aging. A showgirl has a shelf life, and in the Pam Anderson film, The Last Showgirl, it shows the reality of an aging showgirl trying to cling on with faded feathers in her hair, as the Barry Manilow song goes. And so, as Paul Verhoeven's classic movie Showgirls turns 30, what is its legacy? Well, I would say its legacy is looking pretty rock solid. It is one of the great camp classics, and few films in the history of the movies, quite frankly, have had an afterlife quite like Showgirls. The best way to appreciate it is to get some friends round, get some Prosecco in, nothing too expensive, keep it kind of trashy, and you get a little bit drunk and watch Showgirls as a group, and you will laugh your ass off. It's just one of those films that brings you joy, and it's best shared with other people.